Possible action regarding ordinance 2010-08 regarding amending the town code, chapter 6, offenses, by adding regulations for the use of fireworks. Chief Kraetz.
My name is John Kraetz, Fire Chief of the town of Carefree. Tonight I'm asking you to approve ordinance number 2010-8, which in effect bans certain types of fireworks known as novelty items, sparklers, ground worms, ground snakes, those types of things. And there's a little background. This spring, the governor signed into law legislation that allowed for two things. One, for the sale of these permissible consumer fireworks statewide, and for the use by citizens of these same items. It is a provision that local towns and communities can enact an ordinance on their own that will ban those items in their local town.
Councilman Coady.
I don't want you to set you off, and I certainly don't want to set off Councilman Miller. But you introduced yourself as the fire chief of Carefree. When did that go into ordinance that you became the fire chief?
Well,
You were a fire chief of Royal Metro.
by being the fire chief of Royal Metro, I'm also the fire chief of Carefree. I represent the town of Carefree as the fire chief in, for example, Maricopa County emergency management issues and things like that. Kind of a de facto title. It doesn't come with any pay, but if it does, I'm glad to have it.
I know, but in this document, it mentions the town fire chief, and this is the first time I've seen in writing that we have a fire chief. And
If you look at prior documents like the IGA with the state, some of those types of items, you'll see my signature on.
John, don't get me wrong.
No.
We have a town code for a building engineer and a civil engineer and a water guy and a marshal. We don't have a town ordinance to make you the fire chief.
Well, I might suggest that you, as the governing body, make that provision in your town code or however it's termed that.
Tom, can we actually call a representative of the for-profit company a fire chief of Carefree without a town ordinance?
Well, I think it's, as Chief Kraetz says, it's de facto.
This is Bob Coady running his mouth. I have a problem with it. I may be the only one, but I think we have to get this straight.
Can I add something, Mayor?
Please.
If you look at Councilman Cody's 6-7-5, where it says the town's fire chief,
Yeah.
I think you can read that two ways. You can read it that it's the town's, quote, official fire chief, or just the town's fire chief, which would be me by, like we said, de facto that I'm.
But when we say the town marshal, we picture the town marshal.
Yeah,
Actually,
Yeah, I know.
Councilman Coady, you can speak because we recently changed that.
Yeah,
We
I know.
don't have a person as town marshal. I'd simply like to get out of this conundrum. Let's have the town attorney appropriate time to see if his opinion, whether the contract allows us to call it a fire chief or return with an ordinance that fixes the problem by appointing him.
Mr. Mayor, why are we going to spend the town's money on legal fees
Okay?
for a trivial majoring in minors issue? We got bigger fish to fry in Carefree than what the name of the...
Hey, Bob, you may think this is trivial.
Gentlemen, one at a
But-
time, one at a time. Councilman
I'd
Coady.
like to respond to this banter. First of all, this is a legal binding document of our town. Is that correct, Counselor? Becomes part of our town code, is that right?
This would change the ordinance, it change the town's code,
Right.
yes.
A little over a year ago, you weren't a chief, is that correct?
No,
2 years ago, were you a chief?
yeah, 4 years ago.
4 years ago, you were not a chief.
Yeah.
If you happen to leave this position,
Yeah.
and the person that your company puts in your place is not designated as a chief, what do we have then?
Well, you would never get anyone in my place that wasn't a chief, because that's just the term used for someone in my position.
We're going to ask you to rule on something that we just voted on.
Okay, we can pass an ordinance like this. If it refers to a position that doesn't technically exist as a town official under our town code, we can come back and clean that up next month. I mean, there's three issues here. One is the contract may answer the question. A second is we come back with an ordinance change, makes, you know, Chief Kraetz, or creates a fire chief position under the town code. And the third is we revise this ordinance to clarify that, you know, that the permits are to be granted by the rural metro chief who has jurisdiction over Carefree, Arizona. I mean, there's a solution to this. We can pass this tonight, but we can come back and correct the code.
Could I muddy the waters even worse?
Yes, please.
This could get so deep, it's great. You did codify the Carefree Fire Department 4 years ago, right?
Right.
Something like 4 years ago. So you actually have on paper a fire department. And the reason you have that is so we can apply for grants. We're applying for a grant right now that will give the town $95,000 in free stuff. It has to be signed by the town fire chief. The grant application is sent to me as the town fire chief. If there's an issue in that, then it goes deeper than just this little fireworks document. It will go in if I bring that successful grant to you guys, there could be an issue there. So I just wanted to throw that out there. You have a codified fire department. And
that's why we should
Yeah.
do it legally.
sure,
So why don't we wait and do it legally next
We
month?
can adopt, as advised by council, we can adopt this ordinance tonight, and if we need to take action, we can take it next month and do it, and we will not put in jeopardy a $90-some thousand grant. That's why I think we should go forward and fix any problem that the council finds next month. And I don't expect this is going to cost a lot of time and money.